I don't know how hard life is for you right now. I don't know how disconnected you feel. I don't know how much you feel like you're living in a universe and you're trapped in a body and everything around you seems to be chaos and out of your control. And that creates an anxious sensation inside of you that you cannot control life. And yeah, that's anxiety, existential anxiety. So as much as you sometimes control your life, you find a kind of a normal, there's always this background sense of anxiety because you feel disconnected. But let me explain you how this is never the case. Even in the most dramatic situations and extreme situations you may live in this life, you're never, not just even for 1 second, disconnected from your source, from peace, from what you really are. And I know it seems like you are, but the reason why this seems to be like that is because we think that our mind is something. We think our mind is like something that's inside of our brain or something like that. But that's not really the case. Because in order to perceive that you have a brain, you need a mind first. And not to get lost in all this meaning of words and complicated explanations. The important thing to get out of this video is that your mind comes from somewhere, and that somewhere has to be connected with your mind all the time. Otherwise, your mind cannot exist. And that connection is the way you can crawl back like a salmon down to its source and go back to this unlimited, peaceful, enlightened part of yourself that has never left you. It just seemed to be so because you were living in this corner of a lot of activity and a lot of suffering, where you feel you're a separated person, when you feel that you're afraid and you're sad and you're lonely and you're fighting against the world. You're trying to control the world. But that's just mental activity. So your mind is more like a gradient, where in one side you have the sense of separation, your ego, everything's chaos, like you cannot control anything. That's why our desperate attempts of controlling the world and everything around us is because we feel that everything is chaos. But you know what? Your mind is chaos, not the world, not anything. And you can clearly see this in meditation when you see it and try to bring yourself, collect yourself in the present moment. Please do it now if you have not doing it already. And collect your senses, collect your attention back to its source. So instead of being lost in scattered thinking, in your personal mind, just rest in the presence of being. And suddenly you move through this gradient back into some sort of light, which just feels like a peaceful background that starts little by little crawling back into your life. So little by little, by doing this, you start noticing that you go more and more into this side of your mind, which is connected to its own source. In order for your mind to be alive, your mind is just movement, it's thoughts, it's memories, it is activity, it's reasoning, it's comparing, it is many things, but it's this activity. But this activity comes from somewhere. So even your mind, even as you may feel that you're disconnected in an egoic, separated mind, and you think that's the truth and you fully believe it, even in that case, not even for 1 second, you can be disconnected from your source, from your enlightenment. Even when you don't think like that, you see, you're just thinking that it's not like that. So the way back is through what we call meditation. So first, you connect, let's say, with your senses or strategies and meditations that help you to connect more with your breath, with the sounds around you, with the sensations of your body. And this is already creating a very powerful strategy to get out of this corner of darkness in your mind. Because it's just a corner of your mind. Your mind is brilliant. Your mind is unlimited, actually. So all the experience that we're having from ourselves is like you're having an experience of a tiny little bit version of yourself. It's not, it's your ego, all what you think you are, all that you can call yourself by a name, and I was born in here, and all your body life thing is just like a ridiculously insignificant part of your mind, actually. So you want to trace back your attention to its own source. So you can move from a limited, isolated mind to a mind that is connected. And the thing is that you're only recognizing it because you cannot break that connection. Your mind cannot exist without its source. And the source of your mind is not mine. You see? Call it God, call it the absolute. So from a relative point of view, if you wanted to say, okay, how do I trace a map? So I go back to my own source. So I navigate my mind out of the limited illusion that I have been trapped in, this hypnosis of being trapped in a body, in a universe, and so on. How you go back to it? Well, from a relative point of view, you could see this as a situation where you want to go from a lot of activity and chaos and lack of control to a situation where you feel stillness. In a relative sense, I would say, yeah, sit and meditate, where basically you just calm your body and you calm your mind. And ultimately you calm your emotions. Not because that's the goal. I don't want you to be meditating all day, all the time, in the terms of like keeping your body still and your mind still. But it's the great exercise that you can do to remember your nature. That's the way you get out of your ego, because your ego is only powerful when it's active. That's how the illusion works. It has to be moving. So what I want you is to actually sit to meditate, pick any technique you like, and let loose that grip from that side of your mind that is darkness, that is personal. It's basically you're locked in this grid of multiplicity of thinking, where you think, this is my body, this is the rest of the world, this is this thing. You see all these bubbling thoughts coming to your awareness all the time. Where do they come from? They come from grace, actually. They come from the part of your mind that is sacred, that is divine, that is connected to its source. So, okay, you're lost in the experience of a separate person, and to some degree, you're experiencing suffering. And the main point of most spiritual teachings is you don't need to suffer. It's okay if you do, because if you give it too much a big deal, you're trapped into it. So, yeah, don't worry. I know you may think you are not enlightened. May you don't feel that you're not experiencing enlightenment, but that's a layer on top of what is really happening. So meditation is the invitation to let your mind rest, let your body rest. And from this relative stillness, you start noticing, you start recognizing that you actually attach to a life source that is beyond your thinking. So you move in this gradient towards the part where there is only sense of unity. Like all your experience, instead of your mind being dividing, oh, this is my smell. Okay, this is a thought. Okay, this is, suddenly everything start blending into just perception. And that start already being very, very peaceful. So you're not even trying to control your mind at all. It seems so in the beginning of meditation, but that's just a way of let it calm. Like say someone who's nervous and you give them something to do, like a kid that is all over the place, and you give them a game and they start doing something. It's very useful. It's just a game, but come on. It's allowing, it's redirecting instead of like forcing yourself to be like an ascetic, monastic, that you're not allowing yourself to enjoy life and things like that. No, it's way better. Just meditate. Calm your mind, calm your attention, focus it. And you will start noticing that every time you can still your mind, all this sense of chaos and this personal hell start disappearing as a gradient. Sometimes I feel like it moves a little bit, so all the spiritual paths have different stages in between one place or another, and definitions and so on. And I think all of them are useful, but in the end, it's a gradient, because there is no difference anywhere. There's no point where things were like this before and then it's like that. No, it's always the same. It's a gradient. You're always connected to your source. So that's how you go from whatever suffering you are, that suffering, it is happening inside of this great context of peace and enlightenment. And all this comes from this mistaken idea of how your mind is and how it functions. There's this single idea that says, I'm in a body and my mind is in my brain and my consciousness was born in this date and will die at some point. And all this is just thinking. Just thinking. What happens if you let go of your mind? If you sit to meditate, maybe at first focus on your breath until your mind calms enough. And little by little, you will be able to feel how, yes, that's the thing that you were missing. You need to go out to the world as a person going and to have success and to create conditions in your life to feel better, to be better, and to be experience the happiness of the world. Well, here's the thing. It's the other way around. You need to go back to your source. You need to recognize what is this subtle layer of aliveness that is empowering your mind. And that's how you get out of your mind, by recognizing this back door. Your mind cannot be disconnected from God. You could say that God is always talking to you in this part of the mind. You have this natural wisdom that is spontaneously available to you anytime, anywhere, no matter what. Even when you feel you're completely lost, you're never lost. How? Well, you trade yourself back into the source of your own attention, of your own awareness. And you do that by practicing meditation. And make sure you have results. Meditation is not an unclear, just sitting there and see things happen. No, you need to clearly see in the moment. Meditation should be snap, instant, profound, life-changing, remembering your source, remembering who you are. And as much as it may sound crazy at first, you revert from this personal experience of a dream of being a person and the separation with a world and a universe. You go back to the realization that actually everything is impersonal. Everything is peace. You're always at peace. So you're in this situation in your life where you're zooming in and your mind is just creating a lot of movement with like frames of a movie. But if you back off, you don't even need to stop it. But it does stop if you do certain exercises, and it can be useful. I actually do teach that stuff. That's my preferred way of teaching. First, calm your mind. And then suddenly, this thing that we're discussing in this video becomes way more evident. Because now you can just land and rest and see. And then when your mind becomes active again, it's not a problem. You're in the backseat of experience. And everything unfolds in front of you. May it be personal suffering, why not? But it's not suffering really when you see it from outside of suffering. Suffering cannot be really observed. It's being lost in hypnosis. So the moment you actually observe your mind, you face all the things you don't want to face. In this moment right now, I don't say think about your stuff. That's like moving the trash and that's smelly. No, I'm talking about just see your aliveness, your presence right now, and realize that you're never disconnected. You cannot be, by definition, disconnected from the source of life. Now, as much as there may be noise in your mind, there's always this background of silence where that noise appears and disappears. You're never disconnected. The voice of God is always talking to you. You're always enlightened. mental activity. You want to realize your enlightenment, then just let your mind rest. And it becomes evident.